This is going to be one of the most exciting RTS news videos because I am bringing you newest gameplay footage of Falling Frontier, news on a Kickstarter for D.O.R.F, mini update on Dust Front, a guide on how to play C&C Generals Online using a community-built platform, and an interview with the CEO of Stardock Entertainment regarding his company's new publishing services program created exclusively for indie developers. Besides all that, I have an update on the Elder Scrolls RTS mod for Battle for Middle-earth, first alpha gameplay of Total War Medieval 3, and a demo of Hyperwar you can already jump into, among many other RTS related news, demos and updates. So let's start off with the duo that is of interest to half if not more of the RTS gaming community, D.O.R.F and Dust Front. When it comes to the more old school of the two, meaning D.O.R.F, its developers put up a Kickstarter page on the 17th, and it was funded in less than 24 hours. At least the base goal of finishing 3 separate single-player campaigns, multiplayer skirmish and a map editor. There are also several stretch goals which can be reached, and gamers across the world are moving the funding counter towards those goals as we speak. Yes, they need the extra funding if they are to get this project to a playable version for us all, and no, the current funding they received on Patreon was not enough. I will be digging into all this and more in my second interview with the developers, which I hope to post soon. But I have spent some time explaining the finer points of this Kickstarter project and the promised rewards for backers of many different ranks in the dedicated video I will link up here and down in the description. The current estimated delivery and release date is August 2028, and there are many opinions going around. Is that enough time or money? So feel free to share your thoughts about it in the comments below. Now, on the subject of the much darker but equally atmospheric and bloody RTS project in development, which is of course Dust Front, I have only a small update from the developer about how exactly does selecting an army on the global map works in order to take it into an early siege or defense, and also how it is then placed once the RTS part of the game is started. The second part is about how you can build an army during such RTS battles, those that have base building in their script, but you will run the risk of getting smashed early unless you have a starting force you bring from the global map. I know you want to see more and learn the release date of this solo developed indie gem, but the only thing I can say is that you have to be patient a bit longer. Another game we have been waiting for such a long time is Falling Frontier, and while I don't bring news on a release date, developer did post a video and an explanation about the new simulation-based combat system. As he explains, spaceship combat in Falling Frontier is marked by 4 distinct phases, and we can watch these in this video. The differences between these phases are because of the information available to ships about their surroundings and enemy positions, the distances between ships, and which weapon systems they possess or use at any given time. As you could guess, the first combat phase starts at the longest distance, meaning that which ship spots their enemy first has more time to react. This is where the LiDAR system plays its part, with anything outside of a ship's vision, but still relatively close within the navigation plane, is presented as a LiDAR contact, and the closer the object gets to visual range, the clearer it becomes. As ships identify each other at long range, we go on to the long range combat phase, which is obvious by the high use of missiles or rockets, mostly launched from vertical shipboard systems because of their internal design. These aim to take out several vital systems or bring defenses offline, hopefully crippling the enemy ship in the opening salvo. The defenses against these are close-in weapon systems, whose job is to shoot them down, as well as decoys, which lead them away from the real target. Once ships get closer, however, maneuver warfare starts to have more of an impact, despite a new salvo of launched missiles and the main battle guns come online. But unless they are railguns, they have reduced accuracy at this range and in an asteroid field like this one. Electronic warfare is another component at this stage and helps to reduce missile accuracy, while drone squadrons become more effective. Last is the close-up and personal phase, when ships unload entire broadsides into each other and try to maneuver into each other's blind spots. Now, personally for me, this new camera zoom level, the angle, the much brighter atmosphere and brighter colored ships look very different to the gameplay which blew me away 6 years ago. And if we put these two clips side by side, I would honestly have preferred to play that original iteration. But that is just my personal view. Do share your own in the comments below.
Do not hurt me.
I sense danger may be near.
Now, I am not sure are you aware, but there is a massive community of fans and modders who care deeply about Command & Conquer Generals. And not only have they kept it alive and improved on it over the years, but they have basically rebuilt its multiplayer and co-op scene with a project known as Generals Online. So with great pleasure, I'm going to give you a short guide on how to get it, install it and start playing. First, you have to have C&C Generals 0 Hour installed on your PC. Then you have to go to their website, link is in the description of this video, and click on the Start Playing button there. And after that on the Download Now. Once you have their launcher and installer on your PC, you start it up, and once you get to the part where it asks you to locate your installation folder of 0 Hour, you need to specify it and the launcher does everything else on its own. Once that is finished, you just start it up, but have to go through a system of confirmation, login so to speak, using one of the available options. With this important second step done, and once you get over the initial nostalgia of the intro, main menu music and your probably uncountable memories of playing this game 20 years ago, you can start up your own match on the large selection of maps. These folk have created a profile tracker and an ELO ladder as well as quick match setups. But you can always just jump into a custom game someone set up and, like me, fumble about while trying to remember how it's played in PvP, while people who have been playing it for decades teach you a quick lesson in a few minutes. The most important aspect of this project are easy installation and setup, no lack of other players to play with or against, and of course lots and lots of maps, as well as a team who keeps making improvements and upgrades. I hope you will give them a big thank you and enjoy more of 0 Hour's unique humor that we all need in our lives. And remember, it's not about winning or losing, it's about having fun.
Are there not better tools?
General! Our land is being attacked!
As for Total War Medieval 3, the recent developer showcase of the pre-alpha version showed some novel things which have never been attempted before, or at least not at this scale. So in this in-engine demonstration, which is done using basically a skeleton of the game, we got to see some new concepts as well as some old ones but reimagined. First of all, developers explained that ladders are going to be properly carried by units and not materialize out of nothing, despite doing so in this presentation because they haven't reached that part of development yet. Next, they showed units actually fighting inside of towers on top of walls, and the player will be able to use his camera to watch these engagements, even order troops inside not just towers but also main castle and keeps. Another noteworthy change is that towers won't be shooting out magical arrows fired by ghost units, but that only actual archers will be shooting out of towers. Next, we saw a representation of how the last stages of a siege are going to show the people who are living inside the walls, prepare barricades and join military units in these last-ditch efforts to stop enemies from capturing the citadel and executing or taking the king or emperor prisoner. With the scope of Total War Medieval 3 being 300 years between the 12th and 15th century, covering much of Europe and Middle East, and having 5 rotating seasons, this game could put them back on the map or slam the final nail in this franchise's coffin. I fear the second result, but I truly hope for the first. Since there are a dozen or more smaller games which try to take a piece of the huge cake the Total War franchise has been lording over for decades, it's always nice to mention an update from one such game. While in my previous video I talked about Tabletop Tavern, which is coming out soon and focuses on medieval and fantasy elements with a roguelike style of playthroughs and individual runs with a meta progression, Strategos is far more old school in its approach and it goes back into ancient times instead of medieval. Its latest update was about a new map campaign called Fierig, which I have no idea how to pronounce correctly, and it's about the invasion of Rome by Pyrrhus of Epirus. Its setting is mostly in Italy with Sicily, where Carthaginians are already giving Rome trouble. This update also comes with sub-factions, asymmetrical starting momentum, and a bunch of other changes and additions. This game is not easy to master and not even easy to learn, which is why I made an entire tutorial about it, which I will link up here and down in the description, while I would love to hear your impressions of the game now that it has been a while since it has been released. Next up is the demo of Hyperwar, and in case you missed my dedicated video about it, I want to remind you to go on Steam, download it, and try out its skirmish to give the sole indie developer lots of feedback. Many of us already have done so, and he has put in some changes and updates accordingly. There is a certain vision he has for the game, and so he has created some gameplay systems and mechanics you will not have experienced anywhere before. Mainly, these are the radar system, whose power level dictates how far you have vision on the map, the quality of that vision, and where you can control units. Then there is the resource system, which is used to generate fuel and ammunition spent by units and turrets, which have to be resupplied by a massive pod gun which launches supplies at them. There are a bunch of other small and large features to get used to in Hyperwar, for which the developer made a very in-depth tutorial. Personally, for me, this is one of the best looking solo indie dev projects out there, and when you realize this is the very first project ever for this developer, you can't not be stunned by their work. But what they obviously lack is marketing, PR, quality testing, and half a dozen other things which indie developers have to do on their own and learn as they do it, making a bunch of mistakes in the process. And this is where our next topic comes into play, as the CEO of Stardock, Brad Wardell, joined me for an interview to explain how his company is expanding their publishing services for independent developers. This way, solo indie devs or small teams of them can focus on making a game and get help on all the other aspects from this long-standing publisher and their already experienced staff. I did my best to cut the interview down to the most important bits to fit this RTS news video, but also left in some gold nuggets that you will pick up on from Brad's decades of experience in both gaming and game development. Oh, and did you know he's a huge fan of Beyond All Reason? No? Well, listen up. Thank you very much for agreeing to do this, and I know it's Friday and you probably want to go home, so I won't take too much of your time. I had like 5 questions prepared.
Yeah, that's perfect. I appreciate it. That's really neat.
So are you ready for us to start with the first question?
Sure.
Okay, so it's not too complicated, but it has 2 parts. Start to finish, which services do you plan to provide to indie developers who get into your publishing program? And do you want these to be completely exclusive, or work side by side with developers' existing services?
Well, in terms of publishing, I mean, we would be looking for worldwide exclusive publishing rights on the title. But what we're going to be doing is everything from on the marketing side, distribution side, helping them on support, helping them on making sure that they get all the QA stuff, communities management, that kind of thing. As well as one of the things we bring to the table is, because we're developers ourselves, is that we have developers and artists that we can lend to these projects where they need, like, a lot of times what we have found is that a given project will be either art heavy or developer heavy, and that's another area we can really help them out with.
Excellent. Thank you for explaining that. Okay, we can move on to second question. Is there a specific stage of game development at which you think providing your publishing services for indie devs would be the best fit for both parties?
Yeah, in general, I mean, we're really looking to have games that are pretty far along, where they already have the vision of the game, because we don't want to try to tell them how to make their game. We're looking for people who recognize that there are so many games now being released. I mean, so many, right? 30,000, probably 30 to 40,000 games will probably get released this year. And so we are looking to partner up with people who recognize that significant challenge and want to make sure that their game gets the best shot it can at getting a huge audience and being as successful as it could be.
Excellent. I think that covers that question pretty well. Okay, we can go to the third question. Is there a particular reason, personal preference, or business experience because of which you chose the strategy, RPG, and simulation genres as the type of games you would take into consideration?
One of the things that we bring to the table is that, like, as an example, I mean, this is one big example, is that Stardock has 15 million people, gamers, in its community that we can reach out to and contact, but they are overwhelmingly in strategy or strategy adjacent genres. So the benefit we provide, I mean, just being honest, right? The benefit we provide to studios is greatest when it's in that area. So if someone has a really cool first person shooter or a platformer game, I mean, we're happy to look at it, but people we have easy access to, they don't tend to buy those kinds of games as much as, say, a simulation game or a grand strategy game or even certain types of role-playing games.
Yeah, that makes complete sense to me, especially as a content creator. When somebody asks me from indie developers to show their FPS or turn-based game on my channel, which is strategy and RTS, and I just have to tell them, listen, I don't have the audience for your type of a game.
Yep. In fact, you could probably relate to this, is that you get someone who wants you to talk about their game, and it's like, well, my audience is in these demographics or in these genres, and the people who watch your channel are probably not necessarily the right audience for that kind of game.
Yes, that's exactly right. Okay, so let's go over to the next question. Is there some advice you want to give to indie developers on how to best approach pitching their games in development for your publishing program?
Gosh, that is a good question. I would say, broadly speaking, we can't take a game that it has a fundamentally niche audience and turn it into a blockbuster. For example, there's an interesting graph. Think of it as a multiplier, or no, actually think of it as more of a Venn diagram of where your concept of your game is going to be the most important feature of it. You would not believe how many times we get a pitch that it's like, wow, it's sci-fi meets fantasy and it's just like Diablo, but not, or whatever, some other game where it's just like this game but slightly different. And one of the things that developers have to look out for is that if your game is a direct competitor of something that already exists, but it's just not quite as good, it's not a matter of if you're 80% as good as the market leader, you're going to get 80% of that same audience. It's like, no, you'll get nothing, because they'll just go play the top game in that genre. And so one of the things we often get are pitches for games where there is a direct competitor and they're going and saying, yes, but our game is some extremely subtle difference. It's like, it doesn't matter, because people who play that would play this other game instead. So that would be my biggest advice, not just to anyone pitching to us, but to developers in general. Like, as an example, I started Stardock back when I was in college because I was a big fan of Civilization. I wanted a space civilization game. Now, that obviously is not a direct competitor to Civilization, because you're not picking to play Galactic Civilizations or Sid Meier's Civilization. They're fundamentally different games. But if I had decided, like, oh, I like Civilization, but I really wish it was slightly different, then that would have been a much different pitch, because then it's like, well, now you're competing directly for that same audience.
Yes, excellent. Go ahead, you had something to add.
As you probably know, I'm a big bar fan, and we make Ashes Singularity, and we always have fans that say, well, it needs to play more like Supreme Commander or more like Total Annihilation. And it's like, Well, but if you do that, I'm just going to play bar. All right. If you're just going to make a clone of one of those games, I'm just going to go play the actual game. And I think you and I have both seen this in recent years, where a lot of real-time strategy games will say, well, we're very much like a modern version of such and such game. And it's like, but I can already play that other game. So why would I play your game if it's basically the same as the other game with maybe slightly better graphics or something? It has to actually be fundamentally new from a gameplay point of view.
That's especially true, and especially about all the comments about Bar and Ashes of Singularity being put into this similar basket, while you're trying to make a different game exactly so that you wouldn't fall into the same pit you just explained. So that's excellent.
Yeah, well, I mean, like as you may know, I came from the TA Spring community back in the day, so, and the Total Annihilation world before that. So it's like I've already got my fill. So you just see this over and over, and I like I said, without naming games that have come out in the past few years, you can see that trend where people really like a classic game and they just want to make a new version of that. Like, be careful.
I just wanted to ask, is there just specific type of file you would expect? Is there like a presentation would you expect, or a demo, or a video of the game, or something like that?
Well, certainly a video of the game helps. Like if they've put together something that just shows off the gameplay so that we're not wasting anyone's time who has a game that just isn't going to fit our target audience. And then from there, if they have a Steam key they would like us to take a look at, or a playable demo that they have, that works just as well.
Is the limit on 3 titles per year just as a warm-up, and you plan to raise the number over time, or do you plan to stick to this limit as a way of quality over quantity approach?
Yeah, that's a good question. Right now, it's 3 is all that we can handle right now, and give it the attention we need, that the game needs. We don't want, like, it would be really easy to just go and say, yeah, we're gonna publish 100 games a year. Well, then how are we really giving any of those games the attention? One of the things that a lot of people forget is that the number of people who know a given genre deep enough to be able to give meaningful impact, meaningful feedback, and you've seen this yourself. I'm like, you get these games and you look at them, and like, oh man, if they just had one, they clearly don't need it. They need a person who's a genre expert who could tell them that this is, if they don't change this, the game's doomed, basically. And there's not an infinite number of people who are just available who can do that kind of thing, can look at a game and go, if you want your game to sell, you need to, here's kind of the pitch when we do the marketing or the publishing, and here's how you write it when you make a Steam post, or here's how your dev journals. Boy, the number of dev journals we've had to intercept from our partners over the years, like, oh, don't say that, you're going to and where they're about to say something they think is really clever, and they end up alienating half their audience. And there's just not that many people who can do that. And so we have a finite number of people who can do that for these games. And now down the line, obviously, if we're able to hire up and we're successful with this, we can look at adding more over time. But we think 3 a year is probably enough, where we can make sure each of these games gets enough attention that they know that we're focused on them.
I love that. I'm really happy that that's exactly what I was hoping for that you were going to say, and I'm happy that that's exactly what I heard. So I'm just going to leave the floor to you if you have any closing remarks or ideas or comments, or want to say something to developers who are listening to this.
Sure. I would say that as someone who's been doing this for 30 years, and I mean, a lot of the incentive to do this is I kind of want Stardock to kind of play it forward, right? It's that we've made it 30 years. We've always made it, in the past, whenever something got too big, or we kind of branched it off into a new company. That's why we kept Stardock a certain size. So Oxide and Mohawk and these other studios we've invested in over the years, they've been able to go off and be successful on their own. And the challenge of being successful in the game industry is not winning the lottery. It's base hits. And to do that, you have to make sure that you solve your discoverability issues, which is not easy to do. you have to be able to make a game that is going to attract the audience that you can actually reach. And you really need to make sure that you're working with someone who is going to be able to keep you from having to spend time on things that are that are outside your wheelhouse, right? Like I remember when we were much smaller, and I was like, even at the time, thought how wasteful it was that we're having to spend time doing tech support, and there's nothing wrong with tech support, but I'm saying if your best thing, if your particular skill is, let's say, game design or game development or 3D modeling, every minute that you're not doing what you're best at, but you're instead doing something that you could have someone else do, is a missed opportunity. And that, I think, we're hoping to work with people who really understand that. And another thing that game developers often don't think about is that when you make your game and you release it, that's really just the beginning. People now, and you go on Steam now, and people really expect their games to be, you'll see someone say, if a game hasn't gotten an update in 3 months after it's shipped, or even a year after it's shipped,
It's dead, Jim. It's dead, Jim.
dead game, right? Exactly. Yep, you read my mind. And so you have to, so the problem is, if you're a developer and you just finished your game and you want to go and work on something else, or you want to make a DLC or whatever, and now you're also having to deal with making bug fixes to the existing game, or wanting to make a DLC, or even if you want to make a new game, but you want your existing game to keep getting updated or get that DLC, you really want to be able to have a partner who could jump in and that you trust, who could come in and make sure that your game not only is kept alive, but you can still treat it like the investment it is.
I think you just hit like 10 points that I was talking about just recently in a podcast that will come out soon, where we were talking about the future of RTS games, and I talked about something similar with another content creator, where we just talked about how hard it is for indie RTS devs especially to create a game that's both technically functioning and appealing artistically, and that they simply cannot wear 15 hats that they have to wear as solo indie devs in particular, and that's just so difficult. And that is why I think so many of them are going to find huge benefits if they manage to sign something with you through your publishing services. So thank you very much for explaining all of this and hitting so many good points that I too have raised over several videos.
Oh, my pleasure. It's good to talk to you.
Thank you very much, and I hope you'll come back and tell us next year about the 3 games which ended up being base hits, if not lottery tickets.
I absolutely will. All right, good to talk to you.
Thank you so much.
All right, bye-bye.
This kind of support is exactly what developers need and could use to great effect to extend their reach both pre and post release. Like for example, the indie devs behind the project titled Powerplay, whose new demo you can already play on Steam while they're working on Skirmish and a short single-player campaign. Not only has the main dev found others to work with him, but they also changed this game quite a bit since the first time I showed it to you. Its demo version is receiving updates based on player feedback, and you can try it out for yourselves. First of all, there is a new resource production system which is now based on extractors, conveyors and factories, and you can face 3 possible in-game states: starvation, saturation and blockage, depending on the availability of resources. The research mechanic is the second large change to the game, which has a rich crafting system to boot. Please try it, share your feedback and wishlist it on Steam while waiting for early access release this July. One of my favorite mods for Battle for Middle-earth 2 is definitely the one that lets you play in the Elder Scrolls universe, titled The Elder Scrolls The Battle for Tamriel, and its devs are getting close to finishing the Oblivion faction, which includes the Shivering Isles lore and units. To play this mod and have it always be up to date, I recommend using the fantastic community-made tool called All-in-One Launcher, which I have talked about before and showed how to use it in my video on this total conversion mod, which I will link here and down in the description. As for the new Oblivion faction I mentioned, you can already see how their fully constructed base looks like, and even their units and heroes. Like for example, the mighty Storm Atronach, one of the Oblivion's main siege monsters, and surely one of the deadliest. Then there is Velek Sane, captain of the Black Archer Knight, and boon hero of Prince Egwene for this faction. This is the Daedric Titan form of Aurochs the Mutilator. He will be an additional hero of Oblivion if the player chooses Boon of Destruction. Boon of Destruction is dedicated to Merirune's Dagon and provides various buffs for Dremora and Zeulai. Next we have the Gatekeepers of Shivering Islands and lots of other units from that Island of Madness. As devs explained, with each Daedric Prince's blessing, more heroes, buildings and units will come, as you will be able to choose the boon of 10 of 16 or so established princes. Some boons will give you access to a new hero or two, some will provide you with a structure and upgrades, and some will even add new units to your roster, allowing you to vary your tactics. There is also a representation of a new 4-player map called Deadlands from the Daedric realm of Oblivion. Naturally, the Prince of Destruction himself will be showing up on the battlefield, and devs are using a custom 4-handed skeleton based on the Witch King of Agmar. If you haven't been playing this mod already, I honestly don't know what you're waiting for. Fungal Front is another upcoming RTS game whose developer regularly lets me know about his progress, so I have some cool clips of new gameplay additions to share with you all. So in his futuristic setting, where humans are trying to exploit an alien world, the population defends itself with all they have, and some of those are Mantis-like units who have been given the stun ability, which can be used to temporarily disable infantry. This is especially useful when enemies are in large groups. After the recent engine upgrade, the sole indie dev behind this project also added a teleport ability for this Mantis alien unit. The Wasp aerial unit is a new addition to the Space F faction and can take out enemy infrastructure. The Scout unit also gained a cool new ability letting them burrow mines, which work on a proximity trigger and deal splash damage to enemies when they are set off. When it comes to already released games being updated with new content or features, I want to mention Calyx, especially as it has that very rare gameplay idea of fighting map-spreading creatures on an alien world. Its indie devs have added new buildings like the Isotope Reactor to make more use out of that green resource you can find on the map, and along with that came the Isotope Silo building for storing it. In addition, new modules have been added to the maps which when powered give interesting new bonuses. There is the Range Boost module, which boosts combat range of all your units by a bit, then the Calyx Suppressor module, which does exactly what it says on the label, and the Artillery module. That last one gives you control of a long-range mortar once you power it up. If you play Skirmish in Calyx, you will have access to 9 new challenge maps, and Skirmish maps have had their mission timers removed, while you can choose if you want to have sandstorms or solar storms during your match, and which should be the enemy's max level. These are just the most important updates, but there are many more you can read in their patch notes on Steam. Since developers of Tempest Rising have kept on working on the game even after adding super weapons, and they are preparing the third faction to join Skirmish and multiplayer, they have posted a new patch and content update with a lot of quality of life features and additional settings players have been asking for. When starting a new campaign, you can enable all doctrines and equipment at the cost of disabling achievements. There are new keyboard shortcuts to select all support units, which means engineers and technicians on the map or just the screen. As for multiplayer, you can now select a random faction in ranked and quick play game modes, while for playing ranked, devs have capped the maximum amount of points you can win or lose. And besides a host of balancing changes, the GDF's Queller air unit will finally stop using laser weapon ammo on regular enemy infantry units, and just attack them with the machine gun. Oh, and the entire ranked ladder has been reset if you want to come back to the multiplayer for a fresh start. Another new demo I have played recently is of Sudden Strike 5, and while some players reported performance and technical issues, I was lucky it seems to have none of those, so I was able to play an entire mission and get a feel for the World War II gameplay of this latest addition to this very old franchise. I played both the attack on Monte Cassino mission from the Allies campaign and the defense of Sevastopol from the Soviets campaign. But you should know that the full game will have about 24 missions in total across 3 campaigns, including the one where you play as the Axis forces. Things which I liked about this demo was the ease at which I was able to control a mix of infantry and tanks using formations, as well as calling in air support on different targets, or to resupply my own units. Supplies actually play an important role, especially when it comes to fuel for tanks and in the form of repair vehicles to keep them running after each new engagement. And there was a lot of engagement in both of these missions. Maps were definitely big and there were several ways to approach each objective and some freedom in the order in which I could take them on. Things which I didn't like was how the gameplay, especially combat, felt much more on the arcade side rather than a simulation, and a number of elements from the first 2 games were missing. True enough, we already had a bunch of games which go the simulation route, so why then have yet another if they can do the arcade side better? Then again, does the player base want such a game? I am not sure, so I hope you will tell me so in the comments below. I know I told you about the demo of Dawn of Defense before, but I myself found more time to play it and get a better feel for its gameplay. Do note this demo is constantly getting tweaked and updated, so what you see here might already be outdated. So what is most relevant in this situation is that first of all it works with no issues. The fantasy theme and its art style are a great fit and remind me of a few other games which I liked, while its tower defense gameplay is enriched by a territory capture system for which you command a hero unit and several regular units you can recruit. Splitting not just the battlefield physically but also the gameplay mechanically between the more traditional RTS with base building and the tower defense part was a brave design decision, but in my experience with the game it has paid off for Dawn of Defense. It's fun, it's challenging, it doesn't hold your hand beyond some tips and pop-ups, and it lets you learn the best approach through trial and error. I hope you will try its demo out, leave feedback for the developers, and wishlist their game on Steam while waiting for its release in late 2026. Since my channel has become well known for supporting indie devs and showcasing their work, more such developers seek me out and show me their brand new RTS game projects. So I have the honor of revealing a totally new game to you, titled Steel Command. It's still very much a work in progress and it's designed to be a heavy metal fiesta with plate and railguns ruling the day. It will feature 3 asymmetrical factions, be focused on macro strategy and traditional base building with power and resource harvesting, and bring a developer-grade mission editor. Wishlist it on Steam and I will bring you more footage and info in future videos. Now, these last 3 games might not be considered RTS games, but each has a specific significance for me personally, so I hope you can bear with me on this. First, we have the release of Space Train, which is designed around spaceship fleet battles in fully 3D space, and while you can command multiple ships at once, you can also take direct control of them in a much more hands-on approach. As a homeworld fan, this almost hits the spot for me, so I'll always welcome more such games. Space Train has been in early access for a while, and its 2 indie developers have finished the roadmap to the 1.0 version with this full release. Is it perfect now? Hell no. Can they keep improving it? I sure hope so, as it has lots of potential once its details are ironed out. I will personally be keeping my eye on this one and checking up on its progress. If you already played it, feel free to share your experience in the comments below. If you have been watching my channel for a number of years, you might remember I was making a lot of videos about this incredibly fun castle and settlement building game with lots of management and survival, which even has combat and sieges. Its title is going medieval, and after several years of additional content in early access and selling over 1 million copies, its developers have released their 1.0 version. I am going to try and find some time to get back into it on my second channel, Paraphilosoph 2, so if you are also still interested in this game, you'll be able to find more content about it there. And if you are one of my viewers from all the way back then, sound off in the comments and say Lone Wolf. For those not in on the joke, it's a scenario where you start with just one character and try to build and grow your settlement from there. Last but certainly not least for this video is the release of Renegade X, which is a community project and remake of Westwood Studios' Command & Conquer Renegade, but only its multiplayer in the Unreal Engine. This is a tactical first and third person shooter with a lot of inspiration coming from the real-time strategy games of this universe. The original game was set in the First Iberian War, while the sequel/expansion to Renegade X, titled Firestorm, is set in the Second Iberian War, with new units and buildings including tanks, walkers, aircraft and specialists. There are many maps to play on and different game modes, so I hope more fans of the original game will jump in and boost the player base. I have more RTS news to share in the future, so stay tuned in, thank you for watching and happy gaming!